everyone, and welcome to my Sunday talk. My name is Elizabeth Sabet, and I'm the host of Love's Answer to Your Awakening. And today I want to talk to you about answering the call. When we start feeling that beautiful, hopefully beautiful opening, or sometimes people going through a Kundalini awakening, which is not always pleasant and fun, they also find their calling. And it doesn't matter if our spiritual experience is creating havoc in our life or if it's a blissful experience. We will eventually find a calling, hear a calling to something more, to be something more, or to do something differently in our life. So when we answer our call, it changes our life, and that can be really scary. But if you don't listen to that still small voice leading you forward, you can literally become unwell, physically and emotionally. Not because there's a God up in the sky that's going to punish you because you didn't listen to it. No, not at all. It happens because you're out of the flow with your divine joy and the source of life. Our callings do bring us joy, and they do bring us fulfillment. So there's several types of calls we receive from our spirit. The first type is a call to know yourself, or the Godhead. It's a call to life and to live life fully. That going within to find the truth of your divine nature and what that means, this type of call creates an expansive awareness of freedom, love, and pure existence. Then the second type of call is a call to a vocation or a project. And I'll get into that in just a minute. But the third type of call is a call to a specific religion or spiritual practice. And we receive these callings because they support us in answering the first call to know yourself and ourselves as the Godhead knows you. So even though answering your call may not always be easy, the joy you experience when you complete one step of the journey at a time is so profound. You can experience gratitude and well-being as you step into the flow of your divine function. And you don't necessarily have to have had a spiritually transformative experience to have a calling. Most people have a calling and have never had what they would consider a spiritual experience. So callings come to us because they open us up to our joy. We follow what makes us happy, or we follow where we feel like we have a passion for. So they come to us big and small, and they come to the formally educated. They come to those who have little to no formal education. Our calling has nothing to do with making an image or reputation for ourselves. It's not about getting the branding and the website right. It's not about any of that. Answering the call is about being compelled to create, do, or speak something into existence. It's about going where you're led and listening for what's next in the place that you were led to. Now, this could be a metaphorical place within yourself, or it could mean traveling to a specific destination. But a call is always creative and restorative to some degree. It asks us to reach inside to that still small voice leading us and waiting for the guidance as to where to go, what to do, and what to say, and to who, and what to create. Answering a call is not answering the call of some vain imagining of the ego. However, we do have to be careful that we're not building a spiritualized ego around our calling, making an image out of that, as we are making an image out of our calling. Like I said, it's not about branding, it's not about anything around our own identity. We have to be careful that we're not beginning to worship the calling or even fear the calling instead of focusing on our love for the Godhead and its creation. So it's common to not feel capable or equipped or to live up to your calling. But I promise you, if you just take one step into actualizing it, you will gain all the wisdom, the experience, and the expertise you need to fulfill your calling. Mentors and teachers, information, resources, friends and supporters will find you and help you on your mission that's already been ordained for you, that's already been set in motion for you by you accepting your calling. And remember to keep it simple by taking one step at a time, learning as you go, paying attention, and listening for the next right step. So remember that you're an extension of the Godhead and always have had what you needed internally to connect to it. So you can receive whatever you need. It's a matter of trusting it and allowing it in. It's a matter of having a clean heart and not holding on to jealousy or anger or any emergency emotion and projecting it out onto the world or allowing it to disempower you. When we clear our space and we come to our calling with a clean soul, then we always have access to the Godhead. And if we lose access, it's not because God has turned away from us. That is actually an impossibility, as we are extensions of God. It is us that turns away from our own fear and vain imaginings. So maybe you're called to work in your local community to stop sex trafficking, or maybe you're called to restore old buildings, or maybe you're called to care for animals. Maybe you're called to be a parent, and parenthood is your calling. Don't think that a calling has to be a save the world kind of project. If your calling brings you pleasure and happiness as you see the results of your function come to fruition, that's more than enough. Trust that. And finally, remember, you are not your calling. It is a temporary function in a temporary world. It's your opportunity to live fully from the heart and to make your corner of the world more beautiful. It's an opportunity to have impact and bring joy to yourself and to others. And there are no small callings. So I'd like to share a story with you about a calling that I answered in 2006. I had been called to walk the Camino de Santiago, which is a spiritual pilgrimage to St. James in northern Spain. Well, it's actually, the end point is in northern Spain, but the routes, there are many different routes all throughout Europe to get to the west coast of Spain at the end of this way. And it's called the Camino de Santiago de Compostela. And I had been called to this for 5 years before I went, and I couldn't understand. I didn't speak Spanish. I wasn't in great shape, and it just didn't make sense. Backpacking 500 miles by myself, but it would not leave me alone, and I had to go. And eventually I did. In 2006, walked the Camino de Santiago and walked over 500 miles to get to the end of this journey. And I walked with a little Spanish phrase book and made my way that way. And the amazing thing that even though I didn't speak Spanish, in certain regions of Spain, I could understand what they were saying without knowing what they were saying. I just knew what they were saying. One night I had dinner with another American and a couple Italians, and none of them spoke Spanish. And the waitress came to our table and she asked us what we wanted to drink, and none of them could understand her. And I interpreted him. I was able to interpret for people along the way when Spanish people were talking to people who did not speak Spanish. And I've not been able to interpret Spanish again, but it was what I needed and what was given to me. There were also many times on the way when you walk 500 miles in all kinds of weather in the second most mountainous region in Europe, you're going to have some needs along the way, some pretty important needs. And every time I said, oh God, if I only had this, or oh God, I need this, literally 30 minutes later, I would have it. Why? Because I was answering the call. And we forget, and that was a big, grand adventure. But coming home to walk my Camino, it was requiring a lot more faith. And sometimes, I forget, like, wow, I can just ask God. And if my heart is clean, and if I'm answering the call that I am to be engaged in right now, then I need to trust. I need to trust that everything I have will come my way. And if it's not coming my way, I have to examine my heart. Have I been holding on to jealousy? Have I been holding on to bitterness and resentment and anger and frustration? Have I been under a cloud of guilt and shame? And is there so much self-hatred that I'm trying to destroy myself and not take care of myself? I mean, these may sound like extreme examples, but this is what keeps us out of flow. And this is what prevents us from answering our call. So remembering that there are several types of calls, and you will find yours, whether you believe in God or not. Whether, I know beautiful people that don't know if they believe in God, and they have amazing calls that they're answering, and they're listening to their spirit, whether they recognize it or not. And they're creating impact and beauty in the world. And whatever they believe will get taken care of in time. And it's not for me to say one way or the other, but to be able to encourage them in their call and to appreciate the beauty and the goodness that they're creating in the world by answering the call that's all that's necessary. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this conversation today, and I look forward to talking to you next week.